This is the Starry Night, painted by Vincent van Gogh. It is a beautiful piece of art depicting the night sky with cobalt blue. This is the Mystery and Melancholy of a Street by Giorgio de Chirico. Chirico depicted a very realistic street in such an unrealistic composition. And this is The Scream of Nature by Edvard Munch. He expressed a person's fear and shudder so well. We see certain emotions in these works of art. We see beauty in the Starry Night, bleakness in the mystery and melancholy of a street, and human fear in the scream of nature. But how do we see emotions in works of art? What is the nature of art? Plato was Aristotle's teacher, but they had very different ideas about art. Today's story is the aesthetics of Plato and Aristotle. Let's look at Plato's allegory of the cave. Imagine people trapped in a cave. They are tied up and can't even look back. Behind them are torches, and between the prisoners and the torches, there is a high wall. And behind the wall, some people come and go with models of objects or animals. So the people who are tied up can only see the shadows of the models created by the torch. They have been tied up in the cave since birth, so they think that the world of shadows they see is the real world. Then one day, one man is released from the chains, and he goes out of the cave. Since it is his first time out of the cave, his eyes are blinded and he can't see anything. But as time goes by, he will be able to see objects and animals in reality. And he can see the moon and the stars and then the sun. Then he would realize that what he had seen in the cave since then are not real objects. They're the shadows of things. There are two worlds in the allegory. The world inside the cave and the world outside the cave. The inside of the cave is the world we live in, and the outside of the cave is the world of ideas. The world of ideas is real, and the world we live in is fake. The world we live in is just an imitation of the world of ideas. Just as reality imitates ideas, works of art imitate reality. The Starry Night is an imitation of the night sky that Van Gogh saw. The mystery and melancholy of a street is how Chirico imitated a girl rolling a hoop. And the scream of nature is Munch's imitation of a man walking on a bridge. Just as the reality is an imitation of the world of ideas, works of art imitate the reality. So a work of art is just an imitation of an imitation. So a work of art is fake, two steps away from the truth of ideas. So Plato says art is useless. Aristotle also agrees that works of art are imitations of the reality. However, he had a different view of imitations. Plato thought that works of art imitate reality as it is. But Aristotle thought works of art are creative imitations of reality in their own way. Imitation is impressive because it is not just an imitation, but a creative imitation. The Starry Night is a creative imitation of the night sky that Gogh saw. The mystery and melancholy of a street is how Chirico imitated a girl rolling a hoop in a creative way. And the scream of nature is Munch's creative imitation of a man walking on a bridge. The difference between Plato and Aristotle is this. Plato saw a work of art as something two steps away from the truth, because it is an imitation of the imitation of ideas. But Aristotle says a work of art is closer to the truth than history, because it is a creative imitation. The Iliad and Odyssey, written by the ancient Greek poet Homer, are stories of the gods. The gods in this book are brutal. They dismember dead bodies, pull out their eyeballs, and throw them out on the streets to feed the beasts in wars. And their greed knows no bounds. Their desire for wealth and fame, envy toward others, and the pride that they are better than anyone else. Like this, Homer's stories are full of envy, jealousy, conspiracy and betrayal, pollution, corruption, resentment, revenge, and death. There's no such thing as good or justice in the gods. To them, good is just about satisfying their greed, and to them, justice is just about their own interest. Plato was enraged at Homer's story. To Plato, the gods are the absolute good and absolute justice. The gods are the standards for human beings to live morally in the real world. But Homer portrayed the gods as cruel, greedy scoundrels. Plato thought that works of art corrupt people. That is why Plato said in the Republic, "Banish the poets from Athens. People like Homer should be banished." However, Plato himself drew paintings and wrote poetry, so some people say that Plato was a real lover of art. Plato might have thought that people should be wary of getting too emotional because he himself knew the power of art. Aristotle's thoughts were different from Plato's. Aristotle says in Poetics, "Tragedy affects the catharsis of terror and pity by arousing them." We feel catharsis while watching tragedies. Here, catharsis refers to the feeling of purifying emotions while watching movies, dramas, or literature. Some people refer to catharsis as the exhilaration the protagonist feels when he finally takes revenge on the villain. However, catharsis is far from exhilaration. Rather, catharsis is when you shed tears of sympathy and compassion when you see the protagonist in pain after failing to take revenge. At this point, people regain mental stability by releasing the clot of emotions that have been oppressed inside. It may be because of the relief that the tragic situation of the protagonist in the play will not happen to me. Or it may be the sense of liberation that comes after seeing the end of the tragedy and fear. Like this, catharsis is being emotionally liberated after watching a tragedy. And through catharsis, the human soul is elevated. However, there are many interpretations of what catharsis is, because Aristotle's explanation was not very specific. Psychoanalysts, in particular, say that catharsis is the process of reaching psychological stability by emitting the clots of suppressed feelings, emotional wounds, and complexes by words or actions. Freud viewed catharsis as a process in which people use violence to reduce the feelings of anger in the unconscious. In short, Plato thought that art corrupts humans and should be banned. But Aristotle thought that art has the function of catharsis, purifying human emotions. Let's wrap up. First, both Plato and Aristotle saw art as an imitation of reality. In that respect, they agree. Second, from the perspective of truth, however, they disagree. Plato saw art as something far from the truth, but Aristotle viewed art as something closer to the truth than history. Third, Plato believed that art corrupts humans. Therefore, artists should be banished from Athens. However, Aristotle thought that art purifies human emotions.